Good morning, everyone, and welcome to CafeYPanDulce. This is March 27th already. My goodness, hard to believe we're, 5 days in spring?
Yes.
Doesn't feel that way this morning here in Charlotte. But
No, it doesn't.
welcome, everyone, to CafeYPanDulce. I'm Christian Cano, and I want to welcome everyone who's watching us on our Facebook page live. Also, those who are watching us on your other favorite social media applications. Who'll be watching us later on YouTube and Instagram and all the other wonderful places that people watch people streaming nowadays. So we're going to introduce our neighbors for today. And we usually start on our right because we're always right.
But I'm left.
That's right. Okay. There you go.
Good morning, everyone. Buenos dias. Thank you for allowing us to be part of your mornings on a Wednesdays, okay? So this is Ruth Perez, Community Advocate in the city of Charlotte.
Thank you, Ruth. And we have a special guest here.
I'm Barbara Bacon. I'm a patient advocate also here in South Charlotte.
Well, welcome, Mrs. Baker. And
I'm Jeff Scott. Excuse me, man
about town.
And I'm always happy to be here and always happy to listen to new guests coming in and talking about the things that are important to this community and to our neighborhood. So thank you, Chris.
Well, thank you. Thank you for joining us. We've got 3 topics. We probably have 4 topics we're going to be talking about today. But before we do that, we're going to do our traditional, I always forget. Thank our sponsor for our catering, Mrs. Blau. Heidi Blau from Blau Catering is a sponsor of our Pandulce once again. Everyone help yourself while I give her information out. Mrs. Heidi Blau Catering, you can find her on Facebook. Also, you can contact her at 704-805-0269, Mrs. Heidi Blau. And if you are interested in sponsoring one of our shows or one of our different projects, please make sure you contact Kali Lily's Event Coordinator and Talent Agency Corporation at 980-477-1513. She's all around everywhere. Go to our Facebook page, go to her page, find out the project she's working on. And we'll be talking about some other projects that we understand are going on in the city as well. So once again, thank you. And as we always start off as neighbors, we want to salute to each other and to CafeYPanDulce. Salute.
CafeYPanDulce.
The simultaneous sip. How do you say, ¿cómo se dice simultaneous in Spanish?
Simultáneo.
Simultáneo.
And seis is probar. So it doesn't fit in Spanish language. We'll find another.
Once again, we introduced our sponsors. Now let's talk about our buttons. If you had a button, what button would you want to talk about today, so I can share us on our social media?
Our community got to understand we're under 3 governments. The federal, the state, and the local.
Which we learned during the immigration.
Yes, we've been learning in the immigration committee. So, I don't know. I try to kind of wear all those 3 and make them all in one. We need medical, we need immigration, and at all levels, city, state, and federal. So today I'm supporting our sheriff. I've heard last Friday that there's a lot in his bucket list, in providing medical help for a lot of our residents inside the
jail.
Mm-hmm. But there's not enough resources. So that's what I'm wearing today.
Okay.
My sheriff little button.
Sheriff McFadden.
Yes, Sheriff McFadden.
Yeah, who's taking the heat for the 287?
Yes, actually, I know we
So,
talked about that before the show.
Yes.
My button today is Medicare for All. Interesting you say that. I'm still going to be pushing Medicare for All until we have every American or every person in America, living in America, who has access to health care. It is a moral issue for me, but it's also an economic issue because I believe if we pay that up front, we save that money on the back end.
Yes.
So it's from a financial, and Jeff and I have conversations all the time about this. So if you had a button, what would the button be?
Well, right now mine is the opioid crisis.
Which is what we're going to be talking about today. Okay, excellent. And
I would have my campaign button on, but I failed.
such a shy guy.
But I'm disappointed that I didn't see Sheriff McFadden last Friday like you did, and I had a conflict. But which I just needed some sleep actually.
Nothing wrong with that.
But I do support McFadden, and,
Yes.
and if I had a button, it would be a picture of the sheriff going, "Yay!"
Excellent.
Yes.
Well, we're going to talk about three issues today. Our first segment, we're going to talk about opioids. In the second segment, the NCO9 election updates. The third segment, spring yard work and ice. We're including that. So I wanted to talk about spring yard work because that's what I worked on all weekend long. And I
Okay.
want to make sure everyone understands the wonderful services our county and city provide to
Yes.
pick up your clippings. And the
Yeah.
importance of keeping them, we'll talk about that.
Yes.
Why you
Yeah.
need to keep them in those little
Right.
6 feet
Right.
doodads.
Yeah.
It's for their protection, our protection. All right.
Wait for your segment.
And
Thank you.
and bulk pickup.
That's right.
Bulk
Yes.
pickup too.
Yes,
Don't
the
forget
bulk.
bulk pickup.
I don't know. I don't know that
City
people-
services.
I don't know that people realize how much our city does, which is why
Yeah.
our taxes.
And they don't realize
I-
there's grants for all that.
Yes.
Also. So
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
First segment. Let's talk about opioids. Opioids is a issue that is a crisis. I think people have described it as the opioid crisis, our opioid epidemic. We've been hearing about it. I heard about it running for Congress in 2016, all up and down our 8 counties, especially in many of our rural areas. The concern that people had. I was very disappointed on, at that time, Congressman Pittenger's lack of concern, it seemed at the time, on that issue, our lack of leadership. So let's talk about the opioid. We'll start with you, Barbara, because you, I understand, attended an event and you have been kind of following this. Or tell us what where you stand or information you can give us. And I just have to remind everyone that our director has reminded us after watching our last 14 shows that we need to try to keep our comments brief and
Tight.
yes, that's
Like a 3-minute presentation,
yes.
right? I'll try to do that.
Please.
My background is pharmaceuticals, but personally, my family has been impacted by opioids. My sister had MS and was addicted, although we're not supposed to say addicted anymore. That's one of the things that the panelists talked about at the opioid conference that was last Thursday at Calvary Church. And misuse of drugs is the direction they want to go. Addict has too many negatives, and it doesn't make the person feel well, and it stereotypes people, and they want to get away from that. But addiction is a horrible thing, and it just doesn't seem to be, nobody's focused on it. And initially, Dr. Chelminsky at the conference,
And this is a Calvary Church you mentioned. Okay.
right, he said that it was the white man's problem. Well, now it's everyone, and everybody needs to be aware of it. And I think my end take out of the conference was we brought the awareness level way up. You could see a change in people because after the panel spoke, they actually had us break out into small little sections, and we each had an area to cover and make recommendations and things. And I guess I'm too into my background where the people that we were sitting with and speaking with shared their little life impact by drugs, and everybody seemed to be on the same level when we got done, and that was the takeaway for me. Even if you just start talking about it and make people more aware of it, maybe we can all join together and do something.
Sure.
But it's really at a critical state now. People are dying from it.
Yes. You've done some,
Yeah.
you've heard about
Yeah,
this.
well, clearly during the 9th District campaign, the last one and the next one, I talked about it before and will continue to talk about it again. Some of our rural communities are ravaged by this. Now, I tend to just call it substance abuse, right?
Okay.
Because obviously that's a broader,
I like that.
broader
I like that.
topic. Because people have dependency on alcohol, they've got dependencies on other things, and so that can lead to degradation of people's lives and desperation and suicide. And so I think the circumstances now with opioids is I think triggered by this CDC ruling, right, which restricts the amount that doctors can prescribe. So it's going right into the heart of the doctor-patient relationship, which as a libertarian I'm very concerned about. And as independent-minded people, we're all very concerned about, doctors having the power to do what they need to do for the patients, and not being at risk for being arrested or having their licenses withdrawn and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
we talked about that, I think, one show ago.
so they need to be able to treat people, and people need the pain management. Pain
Sure.
management is a real thing. People in pain is a real thing. Your sister, we all know
Two
people.
of my neighbors.
Yeah. So we know that people experience grave pain, and they need to deal with it, and this is a reasonable solution. And just because some people are take it too far or abuse it or abuse the for whatever reason, this becomes a problem for some people. It doesn't mean we throw all the people who need pain management under the bus. So that's.
But that is happening.
But that is happening, and that's what we need to address.
So maybe we need to kind of speak out there to the ones that hold the power to kind of balance it or kind of manage the right amount or the right prescriptions onto the doctors, because doctors obviously, what I've seen when I'm in my doctor's office, we have pharmaceuticals that are coming to give out tries, free samples and stuff.
They can't do that with this though.
Well, not that, but see what's happening is that they prescribe that to, let's say, my daughter-in-law's grandma. Well, my daughter-in-law decides to taste or going through depression, they go into the medicine cabinet, grab it, and they start feeling all this thing. They don't need it for pain, but they're abusing it.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's how the crisis has gotten
And that's
to
how it's
Sure.
spreading, that crisis. And you're right, it's not only on whites. It probably started, but it's damaging everyone at all age level.
Well, that was interesting. You said what you said, because I think that is the feeling that I get when I am attending certain meetings on this issue. Obviously depends on the crowd. When when I have been in front of a crowd of more rural white individuals, this is obviously a very, very big concern, because it has impacted their communities very heavily. But when I'm attending events that are probably maybe more of color, they seem to think, or there was, I can't speak at this moment, but they seem to think it seems to be more of a white person's issue. And there's certain resentment, because when the crack epidemic was involved, white people didn't seem to care about the issue. But now that the opioids is impacting white families, we should all care.
Right.
And so that is maybe an educational thing that we need to bring the communities together to explain. When it seems to me, when the U.S. government wants to try to handle epidemics or crises, we don't always handle it the right way. Whether we claim a war on drugs or the prohibition of cannabis or whatever, we seem to go to such an extreme that it doesn't seem to. So this is a very. I don't know how. Does anybody have heard any suggestions on how we can impact this epidemic or?
Well, Dr. Chelminsky, the moderator, I call him for that conference, the big issue that he brought up is mental health is an issue for these people. And in our little group, mental health is also an area that we need to address, because we don't want them going out buying guns and going into our schools or public places. So marrying those two, I guess we call them patient groups, let's address mental health. And at Driggs' meeting last Friday, Sheriff McFadden was there, and he briefly talked about, he was very aware of this, and he offered a building where he would give that building to help treat the mentally handicapped. And that's kind of, for me, kind of a starting point, having a place to start with it.
Yeah.
And we got off the subject again, but the takeaway was Tom Bowers was there, and Tara Long was there, myself, and we all just kind of gelled together, and we went up and spoke with Ed briefly, and I'm hoping that this is going to be a starting point for us, because it's a great place to start. It's a big money savings for the effort.
Sure.
And he was very focused on it, and I was happy to see him and meet him for the first time, because I've heard about him, but I've not seen him before.
And it seems like he has it all on his shoulder, because he did mention that a
Sheriff
lot of the
McFadden.
family, yes, Sheriff
Okay.
McFadden, he did mention that a lot of this members or this patients that need the help, the family members actually call the sheriffs to pick them up, and they have them incarcerated because they can't deal with them.
Right.
So that's why he's in a real high need of putting that building together. However,
Yeah.
the resources are needed,
Yeah.
because the thing is there.
Sure.
Well, it's difficult to weigh in on this this intersection of mental health services and addiction services or substance abuse
Right,
issues
yeah.
because and there's one part of this that I think is actually kind of interesting. I think that the mental health professionals actually do have a lobby, and they've got an interest. And some of the pain management patients have reacted to this by saying, "You can't talk us out of pain.
Yeah.
Right.
We're in pain. We're
Sure.
suffering. These drugs actually work. They do what they're supposed to do. What we want to have is the ability to get them, to get what we need, to not be driven into the black market, to get
Yep.
Or shamed.
or shamed, to have what happened to Prince or Philip Seymour
Sure.
Hoffman.
Yes.
Yeah.
To do something. We don't want to be driven into that world. So they've got a very good point. So again, I think this is for an amateur. It's a very treacherous area, talking about the intersection of mental health and substance abuse. So I don't want to pretend like I'm an expert,
Sure.
but I do know I'm emphatic about pain management patients needing to have their rights protected
Right.
and have their doctors protected.
I mean, just us four. This is obviously a very complicated, important
Yes,
issue,
it's
which I
complicated.
think just highlights the fact that our federal government needs to lead with something, whether they involve the CDC or our Department of Health
Or even backing out of the prohibition.
yes, or
business.
something. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Starting to say we're going to leave it to
yeah.
others.
So imagine, and I hate to join on
Old-fashioned.
this. I hate to join on this, but we got to do it.
Yeah.
Imagine if our current leader of our country put as much effort in tweets and rhetoric on our opioid crisis as he does about the border wall.
Well, if the
imagine
if the DNC and the intelligence communities weren't trying to take him down for Russian collusion,
Oh my goodness!
he might have time for something like
No
that.
collusion. No collusion.
Okay.
Yeah.
I opened the door for that. So
Touche.
Right.
Anything you want to add?
No, I'll let you say that.
Well,
Well, not only that, I mean, even though he's up there, the ones that are surrounding him,
Yeah.
the medicals up there,
Yeah.
they should be aware of it. And
They
should
are,
be,
Yeah.
and they're afraid to speak. That's
that's
my opinion.
what we need. We need them
Yeah.
to get up and
We need more
use their
whistleblowers.
power.
Sure.
We need people breaking out from behind the bounds of.
All right, Mr. WikiLeaks. I know you're all about.
I forgot my WikiLeaks cup.
That's right.
So
Well, the opioid epidemic, opioid crisis. I threw some humor in there, but it is a very, very serious issue. It is impacting many families. It's impacting families from it doesn't know your zip code. It doesn't know. And I do hope that we continue to talk about this. I'm proud that we have a sheriff that is even having this kind of conversation.
Absolutely.
yeah.
To
the sheriff.
Yes,
Sheriff.
Yes,
and,
Sheriff.
and he's taken,
Awesome.
Thank you, Sheriff.
as you reminded us,
Yes.
Ruth, he's taken so much heat from so many people simply because he's being concerned about issues that impact.
not only that,
Sure.
he did mention Friday morning. He said, because they questioned him, why
Yeah.
did he do what he did over there at
Yeah.
Jetton Road?
Oh,
He said-
Cornelius.
yes,
You're talking about
Cornelius.
you're not the stops. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
And he said, because the prior sheriffs were not doing their job.
Yes.
And
And
I'm
it is his
enforcing
job.
what
Yes.
I'm supposed to be doing.
Yes.
So that really made my heart happy.
Yeah.
I said, yes.
Well, I didn't plan to bring this up, but I don't know if you guys read one of the editorials this week in the Observer that had an editorial on McFadden, and it basically said that his ego, that we have and I I read the online version because I don't subscribe to the Observer anymore.
Yeah.
It's too expensive, like $5 on Sundays. It's outrageous.
Yeah.
But I kind of took offense to that because and I don't mean to add fuel to the fire. However, the Charlotte Observer editorial board is 3 guys, 2 of them white, 1 African American gentleman who's not from this area. I believe he's from up north or so forth. I don't think I know they understand, but it's interesting that when we have our first African American sheriff who is actually doing his job, is what I see, and trying to be fair, that he has an ego. But when we have a sheriff, like in Union County, who seems to be on the surface very selective in his enforcement of people of color, that's a good sheriff. So my point is, I always get concerned when we have these standards for when this sheriff is a person of color who is just showing courage in his job, it's an ego. But when someone else, like a white county commissioner, makes fun of another county commissioner because their son is dying of HIV, that's not an ego. Yeah. My point is, we need more diversity on the Charlotte Observer board. Maybe a woman up there, maybe a person of color who's from this area, so they can have a better view of
or at least people who know the difference between smug arrogance and someone who's just confident.
Or maybe it just needs to shut down for the rest of their life.
And they're projecting, and maybe they got a big ego or not. It doesn't really matter. He's projecting confidence. Sure. He's doing his job, doing what needs to be done.
Well,
there you go.
Ego is a good thing. I managed salespeople for years. I couldn't do what they do every day.
Sure.
You get
it takes confidence.
You're
right.
That's right.
Yes.
Confidence and ego.
He's new in his job and he's changing things. He's got to be somewhat of a salesman.
Yeah.
So what he's doing.
Very good point. I agree.
Heard the ego thing float around. I thought, okay, Barb.
Yeah.
Just wait a minute, and you got to get that he's got to deliver it the way he delivers it.
Sure.
If everybody's entitled to their opinion, and he said that so many times, let him say it, and he should say it in his own words and his own way. Why criticize? But we can talk about that for 2 hours.
That's right.
Yeah.
And on that note, and I wish we had more time to spend on opioids, but we're going to move to our next segment. Yeah. But I thank us for bringing that conversation. I know within our LatinX community that this is not a topic that we often talk about.
We're bringing it out. Alianza Group is bringing it out, especially to our young kids in schools. Okay. Opioids is a big issue in schools right now. So we definitely need to talk about, opioids, drug abuse, substance abuse, alcoholism, everything, because that's what's changing our society if we don't talk about.
All right, Blau Catering, once again, our sponsor for our Pandulce. Please contact her, Ms. Heidi Blau, on Facebook or at 704-805-0269 for your business meeting, your quinceañera, just if you want to have sweetbread on the weekend now that we're coming into spring to help you clean your house. Yes, and also please make sure that if you would like to sponsor this show or one of our future projects, please contact Callie Lee's event coordinator and talent agency, or if you'd like to be a guest as well. Unofficial booking agent here has other things going on as well. So please contact Kelly Lily's event coordinator and talent agency at 980-477-1513. All of the information is on our Facebook page. And we're going to talk about, very briefly, because I'm getting kind of sick and tired of the NC9 elections, but it is still going on.
The election that never ends.
And I don't think it's going to end. Let me tell you, if it goes wrong again.
Why did I do this? Why?
So, who wants to start?
Okay.
Yes.
The politician.
Yes.
Well,
he's a politician, not me.
Man about town.
That's her, man about town.
Is
that a Dos Equis commercial?
I went to Davidson College yesterday, and they had a little 1-hour retrospective of the poli-sci department.
You mentioned that. Yeah.
Bitzer and a lot of students were there. There were some Republicans there. Stoney was there.
Oh, excellent.
And, but the board basically reflected on what was going on, and it was the first time we got to hear, I think, Bob Cordell from the standpoint of, okay, this is something that happened in the past. I presided over this thing.
Explain who these people are.
Well, so Bob Cordell is the head of the State Board of Elections,
Okay.
and he was the one who oversaw the hearings.
The hearings, okay.
And then the staff members,
Okay.
Kim and Josh Lawson, Kim Strach and Josh Lawson.
And they are employees of the state.
Yes, they're
Okay.
members of the staff.
Sure.
They did the investigation, so they
Okay.
presented a fair amount of evidence, a lot of evidence during the actual hearings, and then they kind of went over some of what they did during this retrospective. And so this retrospective allowed the students and others to ask some questions and go through it. And Bob Cordell said one very important thing, which stuck out in my mind because it's something that people were very painfully aware of during the hearings, and no one really talked about. But a lot of the people, and right from the beginning, from the first witness, people out in Bladen County, there's some serious rural poverty in those areas,
Yeah.
and there's not a lot
Some
of
Robeson County as
opportunity,
well.
and there are
Yeah.
people struggling, and Bob Cordell, made the obvious point that the effect of big money, the big spending in those counties is, and I'm paraphrasing, but is really an irresistible temptation. I mean, originally when I was hearing some of the testimony, I took kind of a little jokey attitude about it, like, well, this is great seasonal work. If the McCready campaign is paying $75 a vote, maybe I'm in the wrong line of work. Maybe I should go out and do, that's pretty great. That's pretty good day's work or week's worth. But over time, I realized that's really not a very good joke. There's some people out there that are struggling, that need that kind of seasonal work, and Dulce, for better or worse, took advantage of that.
Sure.
And a lot of people actually feel strongly that he was helping them.
Yeah.
That he was employing them.
Sure.
So there's a real, that some people still have probably a mixed feeling about him, even though he's clearly a pariah in the national press. So anyway, so that the hearing was interesting, and I'm glad McCordell came. He's an alumni of Davidson College. Davidson College is a beautiful setting, so it's always a pleasure to go
Our
there.
token conservative went to Davidson College.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be able to go up there, and again, I talked to Stoney and corrected his pronunciation of your name. Told him that it's Cano. And
I call him
how is
Stormy,
it?
so
yeah, we call him
Cano?
Stormy.
Is it?
Cano.
Cano.
Yeah.
Cano.
Not yeah. So
hey, Dan
anyway.
McCready called me an
If
a-hole.
you want to know, go into the videos.
At least
We're gonna bleep this out,
at
children.
least
Don't
Tony
worry.
was
Don't worry.
had a C in the word. As we know, there's no Democratic primary. No one is running against Dan McCready, which I think is a huge mistake.
Right.
Because I think that it would have been nice to have a different voice. So you can keep that excitement, because once again, Democrats vote because they're inspired. Republicans vote because they are afraid. Libertarians vote because they're smart. That's it. No, I did that for you.
That's why
Let
that's
me
so
put my 5
fearless.
cents. Let me put my 5 cents in there.
Sure.
So, why do you think there's no Democrats that are trying to run?
Great question.
this?
2 reasons. Firstly, because the party leaders, our state party chairman and our county party chairman, just really did everything they could to not encourage other people from even to the point we're sending emails out saying we got to get behind Dan McCready and so forth.
Right.
That's one reason.
Yeah.
The second reason is because I think people saw that Dan McCready spent $6 million and couldn't beat a person who was a bad candidate.
Yeah.
And so they realized Democrats can only win this seat if we have someone who is qualified, can inspire people, and Dan McCready just doesn't
But
fit
you
that.
just said the magic word,
Yeah.
qualified.
Well,
Qualified.
Well,
he
that's-
ain't
that's
no
a-
qualified.
That's a whole separate discussion.
But
Oh.
we've had the conversation.
Yeah.
We have many people who are elected that are, in my view, are not qualified.
Right. Yeah.
I guess my big concern was and is and will always
continue.
will continue to be that the more diversity in our party that we have running, the more excitement we bring to the table. And when you have an election that's gone on so long, you got to carry that base to come out in September, which is when they're going to be running, and maybe not until November if they have a Republican runoff. It's going to be moved back to November.
Yeah.
So the Democrats are going to be focusing on local elections and so forth. Dan McCready is not a very inspiring individual. In my view, does not tell us where he stands on many issues, especially issues that are important to my family. And if the Republicans are out there telling us where they stand on issues, there are many voters, especially in our rural areas, which is one of the things people in Mecklenburg County don't understand. We do not reflect the way people think in our rural areas.
Yes.
They are not loyal to a party.
Yeah.
They would rather have, and it's for whatever it is, they would rather have a Trump who tells them the way it is, rather than a Hillary Clinton who they weren't sure where she
Where it's
stood.
coming up, yeah.
And so for many people, and they'll tell you that, they'll say,
Yeah.
I'd rather have, at least I know where you stand.
That's right.
I'm going to vote for you. And they know where you stand.
That's
so
right.
they
It's
can
like
vote
it's
for
like
you.
the Jesse Helms thing.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
you might not
how does
like
that-
him, but you know where he
Yeah.
You know
stands.
where he stands.
Yeah.
And
So I
for-
think Matthew Ridenour, it's kind of
Well,
racing a little
And that's a
bit
great question
harder.
because many people.
There's 10 people.
Yes,
Oh, yes.
and,
There's
and,
10.
and I've heard these jokes from our Democratic Party chairperson saying, "Oh, there's so many Republicans running." That's actually a really good thing because
Yeah.
that means they're going to excite if every one of them bring their base to the election
Right.
and they carry that over to the general election. It's not going to be a very difficult time to win.
Yeah, I think it's
That's how-
I think it's a
Yeah.
positive
It is a
thing,
positive
too.
thing.
It is.
It is
Yeah.
a positive
It
thing,
is.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
You know, all
it
that
is what it
matters
is.
for people to go out there,
Yes.
get off your seats and go and vote.
Well,
Well,
so-
I don't know if it's relevant if we want to talk about it, but the DNC and the DCC, they've already put out warnings to consultants who work for
Yes.
progressive candidates.
Yes,
And
it
so
is.
so they're squelching
Oh,
a lot of
wow.
competition
Yeah.
in their own party for people who might be outside of the conventional sort
Sure.
of corporate Democrat box. And this is a very worrisome sign.
That is.
This is incumbency protection. So when you
And that's
And
why.
so that's
Do
why
they have the right to do that, though?
Well, they can do whatever
they
want.
can do whatever
because
they want because they're
they-
controlling the purse strings,
And that is
you can't get a job with them if you work for someone who's independent minded.
Well, thank goodness we do have organizations.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, the DCC, the Democratic Congressional something.
Yeah.
Anyway, they are the branch of the House, and their job is to get Democrats elected into the House, and they really work for Nancy Pelosi and the Democratic caucus, so to speak.
Right.
So they're obviously going to, I don't say obviously, but they're going to always try to encourage incumbents.
Convince?
Well,
but because those are the people-
Consolidate power,
Yes.
Yeah.
make sure that
Yes.
everybody's sort of on the same page. You don't want these outliers.
Yes, because
you know.
then it makes things. But the good
Yeah.
news is within our democracy is we do have groups like Justice Democrats, which elected AOC in New York. We also have that's a Bernie Sanders group, a branch of Bernie Sanders. We have
Yeah.
Our Revolution, which is a Bernie Sanders group. We have Brand New Congress, which is their focus has
Right.
been to elect a brand new Congress.
Yeah.
And those are great groups that people can donate small dollars to, and that's really where
Right.
the trend is going. So I'm sad to hear what you say because we've all heard
Yeah,
that.
and this is reported
It's an
in,
Now,
unfortunate
are these
situation.
are
in the
these
Intercept
groups or
online,
non-part?
the Intercept.
They're the Democratic
They're
groups.
just
Yeah,
Democratic.
they're-
yeah.
Focus and just Democratic.
Yes. So there's a lot of
So there's no group that will kind of be like, okay, I think this person will do the right thing.
well,
blah blah blah.
there are those would be groups like maybe
There's-
Moms Demand Action.
Yeah,
Those are bipartisan. But
Right.
they have a
There's-
There's,
specific
yeah,
issue.
there's still going to
Yeah.
be these subgroups and
Sure.
constituencies that are going to
Like Medicare
support
for all.
Yeah.
support independent candidates.
Sure.
It's just that the consultants,
Yes.
Sure.
the bread and butter, the professionals, they're going to be cut off from the bigger money.
They're being
Well,
targeted.
I-
Okay.
And
Yeah.
they're going to be targeted for working for independently minded progressive candidates.
Well, I would argue
Crazy.
I would argue that if anyone wants to run for office, which is open to everyone,
Yeah.
especially if you want to run for Congress, I'm not sure, and I'm just saying this
Yeah.
to be kind of
Yeah.
humorous.
Yeah.
I don't think I would want to hire an established Democratic consultant because they lose elections.
yeah.
That's who Dan McCready,
Yeah.
Dan McCready's
Yeah.
staff is
Yeah.
former Hillary Clinton. Why would you hire people from an
Yeah.
election who couldn't even
Didn't
figure
win.
out how to win? That doesn't make any sense. Now,
Yeah.
I would maybe hire people from
Yeah.
Obama's,
Oh, yeah.
but I wouldn't
Yeah.
hire Hillary or
Right.
Erskine Bowles people. I
Yeah.
would hire more progressive individuals who are in tune with the changing
What's going
culture.
on.
Yes.
It's a tough decision for a candidate, no matter how.
Plus they're
many-
cheaper, so I
yeah,
just-
yeah.
Oh.
I mean, whether it's organizing.
Oh, you can get someone at a
volunteers-
really good price. I need to get someone at a really good price. I'm joking.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to move to our next election. The primaries for Republicans is in May, which is maybe like 7 weeks away.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
right around the corner.
So it's a sprint. There's a lot of.
Yeah.
You're going to see a lot of stuff in your
Educate
Facebook
yourself.
feeds.
And I know you're talking about you're educating our Latinx community on people, and so am I. We're all trying to. And then you will be in the general election whenever that occurs.
Whenever that occurs,
Which will
hopefully
be
September.
and if there's a runoff, it'll be in November.
November,
so,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
once again,
Yeah.
we're going to once again.
2-year election cycle.
We're going to do something different. We're going to do our constitutional quote of the week now.
Yes,
because we
it's
always
long.
run out of time.
Okay.
If everyone, our constitutional quote of the week is Amendment 14.
Woohoo! A really long one. The post-Civil War.
And
And we all have voted for
we made
him.
a decision. Yes, I want to say hello to everyone who is following us.
Donnie Foreman.
Tony Foreman's. Oh my goodness, Tony, how are you,
Hey,
brother?
Tony.
We miss you. Thank you. I'm sure he's doing something wonderful with in New York or somewhere, man, around the country. All right, Jeff. I'm sorry.
So, do you want me to read this?
Yes, so that way I can
Okay,
take a
so
little
this
bit.
was ratified after the Civil War
Yes.
in 1868.
Okay.
So keep that in mind. It's a long one. There's
All
5
right.
sections. Bear with me. All persons born. No, section 1. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. Wow, that's.
Take a breath.
But it's kind of emotional.
It is,
actually.
it
is.
Reminds me of civics class.
Section 2. Representatives shall be apportioned among the several states according to their respective numbers, counting the whole number of persons in each state, excluding Indians not taxed. But when the right of when the right to vote at any election for the choice of electors for President and Vice President of the United States, representatives in Congress, the executive and judicial officers of a state, or the members of the legislature thereof, is denied to any of the male inhabitants of such state, being 21 years of age and citizens of the United States, or in any way abridged except for participation in rebellion or other crime, the basis of representation therein shall be reduced in the proportion which the number of such male citizens shall bear to the whole number of male citizens 21 years of age in such state. Wow, that was a lot.
Section 3.
Section 3. No person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States or as a member of any state legislature or as an executive or judicial officer of any state to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. But Congress may, by a vote of 2/3 of each house, remove such disability.
That is the impeachment.
Yeah, but
That is the
yeah.
impeachment.
Yeah. Okay. Is that? I mean, we'll.
No.
No, that's this is insurrection or rebellion. This is about so Congress can. This isn't impeachment.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, impeachment is 25.
All right.
So, Section 4, the validity of the public debt of the United States authorized by law, including debts incurred for payment of pensions and bounties for services in suppressing insurrection or rebellion, shall not be questioned.
I didn't know that.
But neither the United States nor any state shall assume or pay any debt or obligation incurred in aid of insurrection or rebellion. Right? So the debt that the South had taken on against the United States, or any claim for the loss or emancipation of any slave. But all such debts, obligations, and claims shall be held illegal and void.
Okay.
Section 5, the Congress shall have the power to enforce by appropriate legislation the provisions of this article. So that's the victory of union.
Okay.
Okay, and
Excellent.
and those are the terms of the union.
So that was a long amendment and very important. And as you mentioned, that one was after the Civil War, which was what,
60 to
60s?
65.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Once again, every week we'll read an amendment until we, as a former Catholic, now Lutheran, the reason I went to church was because I think in a 4-year time period in Catholic Church you actually go through the whole Bible.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I believe, is that right?
Catholic,
Oh, you know that, yeah. And so that was...
Whether we wanted to or not.
exactly. So thank you for keeping us up. So, all right, next segment. Spring.
Notice the male here, the male inhabitant.
Yeah, it's a lot is a lot
That's
is
crazy.
Did my
interesting
eyebrow go
to-
up?
Yeah, it was the male lobby.
That's right.
The
Oh.
only lobby.
The only lobby. Spring yard work and ice. I hate to put that in the same.
That's
sentence.
fine.
For some reason, I've got a couple of jokes, but let's just talk about spring yard work real quickly. Spring yard work. Those of us who love doing our yard,
Yeah.
and I will jokingly say, when I moved to this neighborhood,
Yeah.
when I first did our yard, I was probably one of the few people that actually does their own yard in
Yeah.
my neighborhood. And being a Latinx person riding a lawnmower, I actually think some of my neighbors thought that I was the yard man.
And they
I
wanted-
swear.
I'm sure they wanted to hire you.
I'm pretty
You're
sure
doing a good
extra
job.
bucks.
And I
did a
didn't
great
realize
job.
that
Yeah.
until I was driving around, and then the crew that does the country club behind us started.
Yeah.
And they had, I'm like all about protection. I had my cap on, my
Yeah.
gloves, my goggles,
Yeah.
my
Right.
boots, and
Yeah.
you know my ear things.
Yeah.
And they came out, and one of the guys like waved at me, and I said, I think he thinks also that I. So I say that as a joke, but I really, really enjoy doing the yard
Yes, I
because it's
know.
very relaxing to me, and we take a lot of
Therapy.
pride. There's also like this unwritten competition in our neighborhood who has
I
like really
see.
good yards.
Have you
Yeah.
won the yard of the year?
They
or
don't give
the-
those awards, but there are
They
there are
do that.
HOAs that do that. Yeah.
That's right. Over in Lansdowne,
Yeah.
live adjacent to Lansdowne, but they've got some beautiful
Yeah.
yards. I like to walk my dog.
Yard of
over
the
there.
month.
Well, right
Yeah,
now our
yeah.
yard is recovering from all the rain,
Yeah.
and so we've got about a month to get it into shape
Mhm.
because everyone walks all the time. So anyway, the great thing and why I wanted to talk about this is because make sure when you do your yard and do your yard. I don't want to take work away from yard people, but
Yeah.
it's such a relaxing, wonderful thing. Make sure that you wear protection. Something as simple as I do the front yard with a push mower because I like to mulch stuff, and
Yeah.
the backyard with the
Yeah.
riding mower,
Mhm.
and that can shoot off. Make sure your pets are in because I've had a rock or something shoot off and hit the garage, and my dog, run or whatever. But important for you, I'm really nervous about edging because I'm afraid I'm gonna get. I do it with the weed eater, and I don't have like an edger. The city does provide how to get rid of your yard clippings if you do have. If I mulch everything just because we try to be as natural, we don't use any pesticides.
Yeah.
We try to use all natural, organic type of stuff because we have so many birds and deer and things in this neighborhood. But some people do. But if you do get rid of your clippings, make sure it's in a plastic bag or an open bag, so that way the people know what they come around the same day as your trash. They come around every week. If you do have limbs, make sure they're cut in 6 feet.
Certain,
6
yeah.
feet. I found out yesterday. Be really careful when you cut holly bushes. Those real
holly
prickly.
bushes.
Yeah, they have
Holly
those
bushes are
green bushes.
brutal.
Oh my God, they're so
Needles.
painful.
Yeah, I got lots of
So
holly
I
on
cut
my
some
property,
down,
yeah.
and I knew they were painful. I mean, logically, and I had my gloves, and they can go through your gloves.
Yeah.
Please be very. I have a long scratch here because I was pulling one, and it got caught, and it scratched me. But then I started thinking, if that did it to me, what does it do to the guys that pick up? So
Yeah.
I wanted to go online to see how they want us to do those because those are very, very painful. I did try to cut them into little pieces and put them in a bag so they could just throw the whole bag, but that was kind of difficult. But also, if you do have bulk, and we talked about this, if you do have items, they do pick those up. You can go online, you can schedule a
them.
pickup. and they will tell you how to put them out on the road. And
Yeah, or
they
call 311.
yes, yeah.
But you
Thank
gotta
you.
specify
Yes.
every single
Yeah,
item.
you have to tell them
that's-
what you've got
yes.
because they may have different
Oh,
trucks.
let's
that
say
come in.
million, then they're really nice to you to pick it up anyway.
That's basically what my
or as we,
experience
No,
is.
me.
or as we say, you got the
For
hookup.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't put like a whole yard full, but I mean, one or two in a row.
Yeah.
I said, sorry, didn't you make the...
Yeah,
Change on the
no,
list
my,
and there
my,
was
my
open
list,
or-
my list was only halfway complete.
You can
and
actually
they
go
picked up a lot
online
of
and,
stuff.
And
update
put
it.
everything in.
Yeah,
Update.
I didn't know
but
that.
but we should just to make our general point here.
Mhm.
City services in Charlotte are really pretty
They're
They
good.
do.
awesome.
They do a
And,
great
and
job.
we're
They
we're
do a
happy
great
to
job.
live here partly because of that, because
Mhm.
of the city is very well run.
Yes.
So with all the things that we complain about in the
we
world,
do need to give
we do need
our
to.
city people
that's right.
props.
Did y'all
Yeah.
take advantage of the? I think it was last year when they were giving out right before spring or summer the bags,
Yes.
the reusable bags for our yard, our
Oh,
lawn.
I
I
didn't.
didn't-
Yeah,
see
we
that.
were entitled to get.
Okay.
I think it was 2 per household or 3 per
Oh, wow.
household, to put our branches in there,
Well,
and
I'm
they're
st-
reusable.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out these things around the trees.
Yeah. Well, and there's also those whatever they yeah.
For
Keep
the
it up.
worms.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I-
the, yeah.
Canker
the
worms. Yes, I'm
worms.
sorry.
Yeah.
Our director's telling me we're
Yeah.
rambling.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
I just want someone
Yeah.
to invent something prettier, whether it's
Yeah.
with those black wraps.
Yeah.
Maybe they can pizzazz them and put little skirts on them, or
Yeah.
go keep pounding or something, you know.
Or
'cause-
yellow ribbons or
Yellow
something.
You know you can do that. You know your expert will come up with those ideas.
Yeah.
If you go online and go to the city of Charlotte,
And-
apply for funds
Oh.
for your neighborhood.
Oh, interesting. I
There
didn't know
are
that.
grants going on. I think the deadline is in May.
Oh, wow.
You
Okay.
can apply for your if you want to beautify
Sure.
your
Oh,
areas. They'll entitle you
Wow,
for that.
thank you,
Wow.
thank you
Yes.
for the
That's good to
information.
know.
That's great.
Good to have
That's
someone
part
who
of
do
being
that.
in the
I-
city.
all right.
So let's talk about ICE raids. We have 2 more immigrant. I'm not sure the term meetings that the mayor has asked
We have
to
2
get
more
input.
immigration committees meetings.
Meetings
So
and they're
they're,
open to the
so they're
public.
committees of the city formed by the mayor,
Yes. Yes.
in order to investigate what is going on in
Well,
the
not
community.
not to investigate. Actually, the way I see it, and I'm sorry,
Okay.
I'm gonna say this.
Okay.
The way I see it
Oh,
is,
don't say it.
you
Don't say
open.
it.
The mayor said that she's not good on doing letters. Okay,
Yes.
so we respect
I
that.
remember
Yeah.
that.
So she opened the door to the community.
Yeah.
She put 4 council members as to
Yeah.
be the member.
Okay.
Larkin will be the chair,
Mhm.
and we decided to have
Mm.
in
A meeting
every
in every district.
single district
Okay.
a meeting
And
for
it's
the
open to the
community.
public.
Right.
So it's open to the public.
Okay.
And this is to bring resolution, bring
Mm.
inputs, bring ideas. We have a great
Yeah.
Sure.
facilitator
Right.
that kind of connects us of what's going on and how can we resolve.
Yes.
Yeah.
However, once it's done,
Yeah.
and I heard this by Larkin last night, and I've been hearing it every single meeting, they're gonna place a plan. They're gonna recoup everything that it was said,
Get all
and
the
they're gonna
feedback.
try to
Mhm.
see what they can create to. I
So-
wouldn't
so,
say
so they're gonna collect all the information that they hear. They're gonna put it together in some kind of policy,
Mhm.
and then they're going to
enforce it.
implement it and enforce it,
Or
as
not.
the case may be, or not.
Or
Right.
not.
I re-
Or
we
not.
know we
Or
know that.
maybe the most important one, because let me tell you, in every
Yeah.
single meeting that we've been going, there's been
Common
2 actually top topics that
Yeah.
we've heard
Mhm.
that they are wanting.
What are
So
those?
maybe to have an immigration center,
Yes.
like an immigration information
Sure.
center,
Mhm.
and medical protections, like where do we give them resources, where to go.
And one of the things, and I know you've attended almost all of them, or all.
No, I have to attend all of them.
Yeah. Okay. So she's attended all of them, and I think I've attended pretty much except one.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I continue to remind people is because when they open it, they say the reason that we're called here is to come up with these things to help our immigrant community. That's not true.
Yeah.
The reason we're having, and I keep saying this, the reason that we're having these meetings is because the mayor and the city council refused to make a statement. When they refused to make a statement about the ICE raids, and the reason that the Latinx community, specifically Latinx community, were upset was because they were targeted raids at
Right.
his
Right.
Latinx individuals. They weren't targeting Valentine or,
Right.
or non-brown
Right.
immigrants. And so we wanted the mayor and the city council to make a similar statement to what other North Carolina cities have made and she would not. And so
Right.
because she would not, she said, I'm going to form a committee to help her. She said, to help me
Right.
understand
the Fourth Amendment.
Yeah, exactly. Understand.
I
So-
need a committee to interpret the Fourth Amendment
Which-
about dragnets
Yes.
and sweeping and unwarranted
So,
surveillance,
so
so that I can
Exactly.
understand this. as a
Exactly.
city.
That's
and
why
actually,
it was
she's
kind of
been, and she's
okay.
been
She's
attending
attended.
some of them.
She's
Well,
attended.
it's
But
nice to know that a lifelong government employee can finally, at her career point,
That is what-
learn about the Fourth Amendment. Do I sound cynical?
no,
Do I sound
Jeff.
cynical?
But that
You're
is
the man on the block
that
right
is
now.
that is exactly why. Even though I'm happy that we're getting input from our immigrant community,
Yeah.
the silliness
Yeah.
of saying that I need a committee to make a statement
Yeah.
is just I don't understand how logical people
Right,
can
that-
accept that
I need
because
to do some research on that because I don't recall her saying I need a committee to make a statement.
that's what she said.
Yeah, yeah.
At city
So I
council.
need
Okay.
to do.
So
I need to.
we will
we
fight
should
council.
all be willing to say that we're ignorant about certain topics.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that we need good advice, and that we need to study something a little closer. That's a fair statement for anybody to make.
Yes.
But
Yes.
but it also, in my view, highlights the fact that either she is willfully ignorant or misleading people. We had this same committee. It was called the Immigration Task Force that presented 25 ideas.
Yeah.
We did this 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So either she doesn't remember that because she accepted that,
Yeah.
or she's just acting like we need to. I don't.
Well, you gotta keep in mind, out of those
Yeah.
27 recommendations, we did actually did
That's
one.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
So
So I'm hoping out of
That-
all these recommendations that we're doing right now, at least we get 2.
yes.
Yeah.
You get me?
Right.
Because apparently,
I guess my
Well,
point.
it would be nice to hear like a certain statement of principle.
That is exactly
Yes.
what we're.
And if you can say that and say, here's my statement of principle, I'm not quite sure how it applies in this situation because there are a lot of interested parties and it's complicated to figure out, and I haven't really figured it out. But at least here's where I stand.
yeah.
And I would like to
And
apply
see, a
my
lot of our
beliefs,
community
yeah.
are encouraged and they still standing up and saying something that really touched my heart last night was a mother of a kid that is entitled to get his license permit through school.
Yeah.
And that actually helps them because he can get the experience for his insurance to not be so high once he becomes fully,
Sure.
a driver license issue.
You have some things that
He-
you want to.
The lady
Yeah.
actually was telling us last night that she cannot get her son into driving's permit because she doesn't have a license.
She can't.
So-
Okay, because this.
Wow.
How old is the son?
Because you're 15. When
Oh,
you're
yeah.
15, you're
You-
entitled to
you
do your,
pass, yeah.
your driving ed.
Yeah.
Right.
Then you become, to have a license. But when
Yeah.
once you pass your driving at school,
Yeah.
you have to go to DMV with your parent,
Right.
and your parent has to be
Right.
with a license
Okay.
over 5
I don't
years.
think
Well,
people
that's
realize it.
that's a catch-22.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
that's.
We want to shout out to a couple of
Yeah.
people. Heidi Blau, thank you for watching us. Rosemary Palma, Patricia, Liz, they're watching Coffee and Panduce. Thank you, and Tony,
Thank
and
you.
some of the other people as well.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, you had something that you wanted to.
Something that I
share
wanted
with
to
us?
share with y'all on Monday, we attended. Thank you for
The
supporting us.
Cesar Chavez breakfast.
No, actually, I'm talking
Oh,
about the
city
city council meeting.
Oh, that's
on
right.
the immigration at 9.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
that's
Cesar
right.
Chavez was a great event.
Yeah, that
got
was in the
a,
morning.
got a cluttered calendar.
Yeah, he has it all overlapped.
Was there a basketball game? I can't remember what was going on.
Oh, shame on you. You didn't take me to see FUD last night.
Well,
Anyways, we requested some of the stories, personal stories by families and students that were going through some of those challenges about immigration rates and families. And these are all their stories. We translate them in English, and we did hand out all
To
12
the city
copies
council.
to the city council and to the city official leaders. So I'm hoping they get the time to read it, to read every single one. I mean, y'all are free to
Yeah.
read at least. Can I read one?
yeah, please.
Okay. I was absent for 5 days last week. I had a tooth pain and my face was swollen. I couldn't sleep for 5 nights. My teacher called me asking why I was missing school, and I just told her what was going on. My father was deported to Honduras. So my mother had to work harder to support our family of 3. She can't miss work, and nobody can take me to see a dentist. If my father were here, my mother will be able to take care of my medical needs situation. If my father were here, we will have money to pay for my root canal, which is $1,800. If my father were here, I wouldn't miss school, and my grades will be A, like they always were for 3 weeks ago. I miss my father. My family misses my father. Eyes, please stop.
You know that's I thank you for reading that. I know it is it does get to you because as I know you've been involved in our community for a while, and I have tried to get as involved in our community and as of you and many people have, and it is difficult to understand the human what's happening. These are real faces, real human beings. So when I hear people say things like
What it was said on Monday?
yeah, like it was said on Monday by the Mecklenburg Republican Party that put those 2 people up to speak, that
Illegal immigrants.
that we need to keep these illegals,
Criminals, they
criminals, they're gang members, and they're this. All of that rhetoric is just it not only is it's hurtful because these are human beings that in many ways they work so hard, and they allow us to live the lives that we live. At least I know me, and it is difficult. And I had posted that it was unfortunate that I know that during the city council meetings that we have the public forum and we allow people to say things. I just wish, and I didn't hear it, but I just wish that someone on that dais had said, "Thank you for speaking. That information is not correct, but thank you for speaking." Just as I would hope if someone was standing up there saying that Tariq, who's a Republican, because he has a beard, looks like a Muslim terrorist. That would be inappropriate to say. Just as it would be inappropriate to say Ed Driggs is a child molester because he's an old white man. That is inappropriate. Those are stereotypes that you can, but yet we allow that same hateful rhetoric to be said about Latinx individuals. And for our African American brothers and sisters that are on that dais, I would have expected them to say that is not correct. Just if someone had been standing there saying all black people are lazy, I would expect them to say that is outrageous. So it is important that we
refrain from stereotypes.
And when someone does say those things,
Yeah.
that we say, we can't let that become normal.
Yeah. And not go by what you hear, go by the real data.
Yeah.
You know, there was
And by the way, Ed Driggs is not a child molester. Tariq is not a
Muslim
terrorist because of his beard.
He's a financial technology disruptor.
Well,
He's
he
a
does
fintech disruptor.
mention that he is
And I'll
the
never
first
forgive him.
generation
Never
that was
forgive
born
him.
from parents that are from Iran.
That's right.
Was it Iran?
Yes.
What he mentioned last night? So, you know, why he not supporting our immigration?
Well, he said he believes in staying in the lanes.
I was sitting with a
Well, he contradicted him. And during the 2017 campaign for city council, I ran against Tariq.
Okay.
I won't run against him again because the SOB is too charming. But he did change his mind on ICE. He was strongly pro ICE at the beginning, and then I saw him sort of change his mind and shift his ground. So he's been a little squirrely on that issue right from the beginning.
Yeah.
I do like Tariq. I mean, I like him and his wife, and he's
we
friendly
him
to
out
me.
of the seat.
And
Everybody's
again,
nice and friendly.
yeah.
And
I agree with him on many things,
Yeah.
except for the fact that he's a disruptor.
But let me tell you, he might be a great person as a human being, but he doesn't need to be occupying that seat where he's not enforcing his whole power. That's
Well,
what we chose him for.
That's why we have elections and democracy,
It's
and
funny
people
'cause
can look at his record and
He
they can
showed
make a
only to his
determination.
district, and and I have so much to comment on that last night.
Yeah.
It was funny how we had the mayor, city mayor, the city manager, the mayor,
The police
Mitchell,
officer-
police
police
officers.
officers.
We had, Matt Newton's always being there in Larkin, but we have other city officials in the room with more information. Like we had 311, we had police officers, we had CRC, the community relations, Luis Mata, whole bunch of crew to Harris YMCA.
Harris YMCA, yeah.
You know,
But they didn't
why?
get the other
Because this
benefits.
area is wealthy. Why? Because we need a public. You know,
That's
that's
a big
lot.
YMCA, by the way. It's the first time I've been there. That's like
You
a
know, they
city.
had ballet.
That's where I go.
They had, that's incredible.
I
Is
swim,
that where you
yeah,
go?
I swim there. Yeah, I'm
Must
gonna
be
swim there right
nice.
after this.
Must
Well,
be.
If you want to
Excuse
meet
me.
me, see me at the Harris Y
Are
in the
you-
third lane.
Are you running for the border? Can't make those kind of jokes. All right. Thank you for sharing that information. We're going to wrap it up here because we value your time and we've gone. Actually, we started a little late, but we're pretty
good.
much on time.
Yeah.
I do want to say that once again, it's wonderful to have these kind of conversations. And if one of the things that we accomplished with this show, and as we move forward, is that we have our neighbors do things like this. That they invite people into their home and have conversations. They don't have to be as specific as ours, but let's just, we keep saying this, we need to bring people back together again and so forth. And, that's a wonderful goal. Unless the millennials somehow come up with some solution to what the baby boomers started, but they couldn't finish. I don't see that's going to happen. That's just part of the
But we
diversity
need
of
this
our
type
country.
of conversation to
But yeah,
educate each other.
Yeah, we do need
Get
that.
to know us.
And I do think everyone. So, Keke?
Okay?
Teléfono.
Yes.
Numbers.
Phone numbers. Yes. So, Blau
Well,
Catering. Good.
While you're looking for the number, I do want to say that in the next couple of weeks, I don't know if it'll be next week, but we will have a special guest, another candidate
Yes.
in the 9th District. We will be visiting with Alan Smith, who
Alan
I
Smith
met for the
is
first
green.
time last night. He's the Green candidate.
Green candidate.
He ran for school
He's not
board
actually
a couple
green.
years
He's
ago.
part of the Green Party.
He's a
I was
a
kind of
Martian.
picturing him already, the green.
He's a Martian.
She's like, are we going to that to get ratings?
But he basically ran in a nonpartisan race
Yeah.
as an independent a couple years ago at the school board, and I remember meeting him then. But I met him last night. We talked about
Now,
it.
will he answer the questions that we ask him?
Yes, he's prepared to answer questions.
My goodness.
Fudd, we need you here that day.
So
We're getting our questions.
So he's an open book too, and he's willing to talk, and he's eager to fight the independent battle for Congress.
And once again, we welcome anyone who supports Dan
Yes.
McCready, anyone who likes Dan McCready to be on this show to tell us why you're voting for him, or to at least answer some questions we have about.
That you might know, we don't.
Yeah, why
That's right.
he supports ICE, why he supports President Trump's 287G program, why he supports a lot of these things that impact our community, why he will not come out and say that all the L, G, B, and T should be treated equally in the military.
And not about us, the women's either.
Or
Yes,
maybe we should start a GoFundMe reward, to see if we can attract somebody with, like $100, raise money to get a McCready supporter in here to talk about how much they support
Ooh.
McCready.
Great idea.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Or maybe we should just camp out in front of his house.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I'm also thinking?
Stoney,
Maybe I
get
can
your
stop.
people.
Stoney.
Stoney, get your people together.
You and me, buddy.
Yeah.
We're gonna
Pick
go
you up,
Or
camp
maybe we
out.
can go through the neighborhood, and if we see a Dan McCready sign, go knock on the door and interview them and say,
I've got one
why?
around the corner about
Why
it.
do you support him? Can you tell me what he's standing for? I
Yeah.
would love to vote,
Yeah.
but I need to find out
Yeah.
for what.
Girl, you know we're gonna get shot. No,
Okay.
no,
Okay.
no. What's that character from? Is it
From
Family
the-
Guy? No, Superman not home. No, Superman's not home. Mister. All right.
Okay, we'll wrap it up.
Your phone number. How can we?
How can we get in contact with you? Show your, she's getting packages for us,
Okay. Yes.
so we can get awareness.
Bridging the
Okay.
difference, there's a ton of information here about resources and things for the opioid crisis.
And can someone contact you if they'd like that information? Can we put your email address or
Sure.
something on your Facebook page on our website? I don't want to give that information out until we get
Yeah.
that information.
Yeah,
So we'll post that information on our Facebook page. You are going to be where next? Besides the Harris YMCA, the swimming.
Dan
Yeah,
McCready's house.
I'll be camping out at Dan McCready's house. I'll be swimming laps at
Let
Harris
us join you.
YMCA.
I'll bring marshmallows.
You know, we had a very busy week because we wrapped up our
Yeah,
convention.
the conventions.
We did our convention.
Thank you.
on
Thank you for
Saturday.
having it at a sports bar.
I
by the
will
way.
be. I will be in Union County on Thursday night.
Okay.
And there'll be a party meeting, and
Okay.
I think we're going to be at Dream Chasers, and I'm also going to introduce the topic of bringing Alan Smith down so that we can do some co-presentations.
Can you do me a favor while you're at
Yes.
Dream Chasers, which is a great place, by the way?
Yeah.
I've been there
Yeah.
several times.
Yeah.
They are supporters of Dan McCready. That's where he held his
Yeah.
redo. Ask the owner why he supports Dan McCready. Just
Okay.
curious, because Dan McCready does not support a lot of the
Yeah.
issues. I know the owner,
Yeah.
and they have concerns about the caps on their ability to
Right.
distribute their beer,
That's
craft
right.
beer.
So
Yeah.
the Libertarian Party
Yeah.
has been joined at the hip with
Yes.
the craft brew
Yes.
movement
Yeah.
and craft freedom and distillery freedom
Yes.
and distribution freedom and
Sure.
anti-ABC stores.
Yeah.
we've been all on this.
Involved.
Anyway, I
That's
guess
awesome.
And I will rattle the cage of the owners at Dream Chasers. Even I love the stout. So
Yeah, they've great.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
where are you going to be next, or
Actually today's Wednesday. Tomorrow's our
stealing tamales?
stealing tamales. I hope Manolo can change that menu. No, I'm just kidding.
For those of you, these 7 immigration meetings that the city is holding.
I think I've
the
gained so much
The
weight.
food is being provided by Manolo's Bakery,
Oh,
and
wow.
they give a lots of. Yeah, I'm sorry. I know I should. But anyway, they give a lot of food with tamales and stuff. And every time I turn around, she's
I got
like,
the big old plate.
she's like putting it in her. I'm sorry, just once again, Blau Catering. Excellent Pandulce. Please contact her at 704-805-0269. Alexa, play Pandora. And also,
Mariachi Radio from Pandora.
Yes.
Yes.
if you would like to sponsor one of our projects or a future project or this show, 980, Cali Lily's event coordinator and talent agency, 980-477-1513. 980-477-1513, or Blau Catering. Let me do it again so I can make up. Blau Catering, Facebook, 704. I'm getting the I.
Tamales don't have nothing to do with blockade.
You want me to
We
read
love
the
your
number?
bread block. Thank you.
805-0269. So I want to thank everyone for joining us, and next week we'll
Next
post the date
Wednesday.
when we have our special
Yeah,
guest
we'll
coming up.
hope to bring Alan in
Yes.
as
Awesome.
soon as possible.
And happy spring. The weather is going to get better. Please take care of your yard. Anything else before we close out?
That's it. Thank you for having us.
Sunblock 25.
25.
70.
Do you have anything you'd like to add before we close?
There's a group of us going to county commissioners meeting next week to talk to them about opioid.
Oh,
and-
that's
awesome.
What day is that? A Monday or Tuesday? or-
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Tuesday night,
Tuesday.
6 o'clock, I think.
Tuesday, 6
Government
o'clock.
Center.
Government Center County Commissions. Talk
Yeah.
about the opioids. All right.
Awesome.
Great.
Thank you,
Almost
everyone.
100 people now.
We will
Yeah.
see you next week.
Hasta luego.
Thank you.
Hasta mañana.
Hasta mañana.
Hasta